All right. Welcome back. Welcome back. Money Mondays. Right? We're here to talk about money, right? And how it affects you, not just money, also the economy, the ecosystem in itself, and how we're kind of faring and how we're kind of doing, rather than just saying bad. We're here to change your mindset about money, how you look at things. And when we were younger, we used to look at a lot of these things, right? When you look at the news, you say, well, it doesn't really concern me. It's not really important. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really affect me. And you just chose to sort of sometimes, if we could be unfair, live in this sort of ignorance and say, I'm fine, right? As long as I'm good, I'm good. But, as you get older, as you get better with money and your mindset starts to change, you understand that little things affect other little things, and those little things can find their way to your doorstep. So then it ends up mattering. Today, we're talking about women being, kind of wiped out of the workforce. And, well, we'll go over why that should matter to you, even you as a whole man, right? These things still matter. These things are still important because chances are you probably know a woman, right? Chances are you probably know at least one, right? That's not too much of a far off thing to say. You probably know at least one. So that being said, again, Money Mondays, if you are new here, consider subscribing to the channel. You can donate. You can find ways, right? Oh, wait, no, it's above this time. You can find ways to donate there. Super chats and stuff like that is always welcome. Likes, double tapping the screen is always going to be your best bet just to get the algorithming, if that we can say that. Right? But again, it's Monday. No one really likes Mondays. We're not going to try to keep you all night like Subscriber Sundays where we just go. But if you have a question, you are curious about something, then feel free to jump into the chat. Let us know. We got no problem derailing some of these conversations so we can have other conversations. That's what it's all about. That's what it's for. So we'll get into this. We just make sure everything is up and running. Jazz, good to see you. We just make sure everything is up and running, and then we'll get into this and breaking it down. Obviously, you are aware. You see how a lot of this is sort of panning out just when it comes down to economy. It's something that we all should be aware of, especially those of this age. You should be, if you're a millennial like I am, then you should be moving in that position where it's time to retire. Not that it's time to retire, but you can now, you've crested the hill. Right? If you started working anywhere in your early 20s, you've been in it for maybe 20 years. Depending on your outcome, depending on your job, depending where you are, depending on your retirement plan, you can go soon, right? 9 years, 10 years, you can go, some 15 years. But you've crested enough of that time on the job where you're now looking at the top of the hill. You can see the horizon. Before, when you're simply climbing that mountain, you can't see much. You can't see much. There's not much that we got for you. You just have to sit there and continue to put one foot in front of the other. Now you need to start managing how that descent looks and where you're going to actually land. That's why the conversations we often have is about retirement strategies, what you're doing with your money, where your money should be, and if you are starting late in the game, how aggressive you might need to be to catch up. Right? We constantly do those, and we circle back to those topics often. So one of those, right, in this sort of sense, is thinking about when we think about your job. When we think about it and how it's supposed to actually work, we sometimes just think, well, all I need is a job. But your job is not really a financial plan. It's where you go to work. Sure, it's where you get some sort of income, where you derive your income from, but that's not an actual plan. So in that sense, right, approximately 319,000 Black women were employed between February and July 2025. Black women were also disproportionately affected by federal workforce reductions. So there's many that left the workforce. But, so you're looking at that as all right, you lost your income, you lost your job, but you should have a financial plan in place for all that. Having a job does not guarantee that you're going to have sort of financial freedom. So what we're told, more considering the job, place so much emphasis on the job itself. So we told you, you got to get a degree. You got to build a career. You got to earn your money. Then you're going to be secure. outside of the other conversations, we're saying that you're supposed to find a husband because sometimes you consider two different tracks that people are running. Find a husband, let him be the one that's supposed to secure you. A lot of women are saying, I'm doing it on my own. If I can't secure the husband's not guaranteed, then I got to go out. And so you listen to the advice. The advice was simply, hey, you need that degree. We leave out a lot of the nuance, right? We understand that. Build your career, earn your own money. And this was more aligned with what got a lot of women into the workforce. And here you are. So being that said, we think that the career is supposed to provide the lifestyle, the financial security, but none of these jobs actually do anything like that. They simply pay you for your labor at whatever negotiated rate your job, your income, or rather your degree says. So you work with that and you say, okay, this is what it is. But the truth is, Black women experience a major employment decline in 2025. Now in 2026, you see more of the labor market itself starting to weak. So what did I always say when women are talking about this? They're the canary in the coal mine. They're the test. They're letting you know, hey, this is happening. This is on the way. If you're not paying attention, if you're not actually engaging in this, you're going to miss when the signal to say, hey, there's gas in here. People are dying. It's time for you to leave. No, you get caught up in the mine. You're dead too. So, usually people really enjoy a bit of short and fried. So they like to see, oh, bad stuff is happening to women. Great. Congratulations. Great. Too bad for them. It sucks for them. Completely unaware that, your time is coming, right? Your time is coming. So you saw we don't want to call it specifically a targeted, right? We don't want to look at this saying it was targeted in 2025 was mainly Black women. We'll get into the specific jobs that sort of were, anti-DEI, or the one when we got rid of DEI, why some of these jobs were gone. That's just sort of the labor force. Now we're in this place where you see AI coming and basically doing this big one. So some companies are saying, hey, we're going to, transition a lot of this to AI. Some others are simply saying, well, we care more about the shareholders, and that's always going to be our main focus. So at first, the canaries died. Then we ignored it. We just said, too bad. Ooh, happens. You guys said, you didn't need us. You were strong and independent. Now look at you. We gloated. We looked and said, too bad. Now we're seeing the same thing happen to us. Every other day, or at least every other week, you see some layoffs happening in Meta, in post office, right? You see all these companies, Amazon announcing. Then you're left thinking, well, this sucks, right? You're left thinking this sucks. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel. Good to see you joining us here. I got my animation loaded. I got to do that manually. But what you end up seeing is the rest of us are now catching up. The job layoffs are coming for the rest of us, and now we're looking and saying, okay, this still sucks. We see what you were talking about. But again, we just thought the job was enough, so that was our financial plan, right? So what we're looking at now, what we're trying to examine is why we end up mistaking this, or how we can stop mistaking this paycheck for the financial plan. And we're just going to kind of use women as sort of the litmus test to show you how these things happen, specifically how it's been affected women. We want to give you a better insight what's actually happening to jobs now. And one of the things that had this conversation very recently, how a lot of these layoffs were not something that simply happened. You were foretold. A lot of the times, if you read these articles, this is what I'm saying. A lot of this noise is happening, this news is happening, and you consider it noise, so you don't listen to it. When you read some of these articles, they say more layoffs to come. It's not something that it simply surprises you. It just shows up on the horizon. They're telling you more to come. Specifically, we can look at what happened with Doge and the federal government, while people were getting emails saying, hey, there's a fork in the road. This is literally, it was a quote, there's a fork in the road. You get to right now decide whether or not you want to take a buyout. If you're eligible to retire, take the buyout, take the severance, give you 9, 10, 11 months. Some people got 12 months. for retirement of their, their severance, or you can stay on and maybe when we downsize, you get let go anyway. So some people took it and they figured, all right, I took this, maybe depending on what they made, maybe I took $85,000 and sure, I can find another job. I can find another job in that amount of time. So I should be all right. I should be able to make it in time to say, okay, I find something else and I had this little nest egg in the time. But at the same time, you see that the private and public sectors were mirroring each other. You were seeing this capsizing, this crunching, where we were losing a lot of players and everyone else was now back into the workforce, back into the unemployed. They were like, hey, I now need a job. Worked out for those that took the severance. A lot of those, you saw a lot of stories that came up from people that took the severance, complaining that they could not now find another job. Because at the same time that, people in the federal government took the severance, and a lot of that was women, now they're going out thinking, okay, I can find some success in the private sector. You couldn't. Private sector was also shrinking. That's when you see a lot of people complaining about ghost jobs. That, hey, I applied for this thing on Indeed and it says it's open. And what they're taking in, they're simply taking in your resume, sliding it off the table into the trash bin. Say, all right, great, thanks for applying. Same position's been unfilled for years now. So a lot of it came down to people playing fast and loose with job numbers. Fast and loose because you start looking at these things and you see, is it a colluded effort to sort of help inflate the stock market? I don't think it's not. So again, the question that we always want to come back to is just about your paycheck, about your income. If you lost it today, how long would you go before how long could you go before it became a real problem? Most people, it's a problem immediately because the income was the financial plan. So you end up there stuck, right? So what happened? Employment among Black women fell approximately 319,000 February to July 2025. This represents a net employment decline. Right? It's hard to look at it and say that were they layoffs, or some people saying, hey, I'm out. You took the severance. You took the fork in the road, or you quit the job, or you retired. But we know 319,000 were extracted from the workforce. So when we look at federally, 12% of the federal workforce, Black women make up 12% of the federal workforce. We know statistically, there's like 6 or 7% of Black women in the United States. So you're heavily represented in federal positions. Fork in the road. Doge came. Naturally, who was going to be more of I want to say victim, but it feels appropriate. When you have to justify your job to, young adults who just happen to be tasked with this job. So you're gone from the workforce. Now what happens, right? Federal departures included layoffs, terminations, resignations, retirements, and positions that were simply eliminated. So it's a disproportionate outcome because women relied heavily on these positions. And these positions, when you got a federal job, the notion was that this thing was supposed to be steady. Supposed to be steady. You were supposed to be safe. You were supposed to be good. It was supposed to be, even Stevens. You were going to be fine there. But in reality, well, we came upon a very new reality. For such a long time, we understood that a lot of these jobs were bloated. A lot of the federal government was bloated, but because the federal government's not in a position to make money, that's not their position. They're not supposed to be making money. So some of their agencies, their departments aren't supposed to turn a profit. You get a budget. You don't say, well, this is our plan. We plan to make X amount of money. So no, it's a different model. So you can have a lot of people in there that are redundant. You do the job for someone else, that someone else does. So now, election comes, Elon Musk comes and says, there's too much waste here. For some you might have been correct. Some you might be correct. When you go and find that how many people on payroll that actually aren't alive, right? Or actually haven't logged in, or actually are logging in from Tahiti. Then you're left in this, well, how does any of this make sense? Yeah, exceeded GDP. Yeah, how long exactly? We can't really sit here on sitting here and playing the game with deficit spending. That's not how any of this works. That's not how any of this works. But those are I get it. We want to reduce what we can reduce, and I'm all for us finding fraud and eliminating that where it's actually appropriate. The problem is here we had such an over-reliance on federal positions where especially people, and to their discredit, right? Yeah. No, yeah, we're talking economics. We're not calling people out here. We like to look at data. What we end up seeing is when you took these positions, and some people made TikToks about this. Several Black women made TikToks about this, talking about how they don't do anything at their job. And you're talking with a postal uniform on, how it's the easiest money you've ever made, how you never really at work, how you even don't deliver the mail you're supposed to. You store it somewhere else, you stash it, you trash it. So when these people ended up losing their jobs, we're like, you cannot continue to badmouth the thing and then they come and say, this position is redundant because you're not even doing it. So again, 12% Black women were in federal employment. So now that turns around and say, okay, when it come down to the time to start downsizing that, well, that's what's going to happen. So we look at, let me get the animations going. The 2026 job market itself, in relation to this, we only added, say we're just taking June, only added 57,000 jobs added in June. Unemployment was at 4.2%. Right? All this looks stable. All these numbers look stable. But long-term unemployment increased. Employers announced more than 443,000 job cuts during the first half of 2026. So when we look at an unemployment rate, right? When we look at a true unemployment rate, what we're talking about here is not that these people found jobs. Stop looking, right? That also affects the number. It's a constant thing that we sort of leave out. But if we're looking at this realistically, your own set of eyes, does it feel? Do you see like we have an actual strong job market? And this could be completely depending where you live. But are people generally complaining about a lack of jobs, a lack of well-paying jobs? Or they're saying, oh no, great, this job allows me to feed a family of 4 on a single income. We talked about this before when we're just trying to say, we have to make sense of some of the things that we see in the economy, and then we end up sort of superimposing that into how we relate to one another, into how we date with one another. The data is here saying Black women were affected more so than anyone else in just the labor, in the loss of jobs. You had jobs with careers in social services, HR, positions that they came and say, these things are redundant before we even started talking about AI. So when the conversation is also simultaneously being had, I don't need a man, I don't need a family, I don't need a husband, I can do that all by myself. This is why we constantly say on this channel that it's better together. Collaborative is always going to be the way you can go, the way you can do these things, the way that makes sense to you, rather than going out and thinking that I can do it all by myself. A partner insulates you from a lot of emergencies, from a lot of struggle, rather than thinking that I can do it on my own. And this goes for men as well, right? Rather than thinking, hey, I'm fine doing this. The difference we see sometimes with, when it comes down to the genders, men are more than willing to live in a hovel. Right? The more than willing to live in a room. For safety reasons, women won't really have a bunch of other roommates, shack up with a bunch of other co-ed spaces. They don't really do that. You live in your car as a woman is very dangerous versus you as a man living in your car. You taking showers at Planet Fitness and so on. Yeah, it's easier for men to go about doing some of these things. One, they're often more willing to. 2, it's just safer. So when you have these conversations in real life, in real time, we have to keep in mind that everyone online, right? Oh God! Besides me is lying to you. Everyone, all of them, right? When they say, hey, I make 6 figures, I make $250,000, I make $250,000, the line. right? Statistically, they're probably lying to you, unless the internet has a for whatever reason has this aggregate of people that are making the most money in the world and simply come online and make videos at the same time. I'm making so much money that I'm going to tell you how to do it. That really doesn't jive with sort of how people are. But if you buy my course for $15,000, now it makes sense why I want you here. I'm not making the money, but I need you to help me make the money. But listen, so this is where the market, the labor market really is. Right? It sounds good. Sometimes if you catch the market on a good day, we're getting to higher highs. But in reality, how many people do you know that are constantly now complaining about the inability to survive? Shrinkflation, inflation, these things taking money out their pockets. We want to have more like realistic conversations. I make 120 a year. That's not much money anymore. Listen, Jimmy, depends where you are, right? Depends where you are. That's the truth. And then it also wholly is going to depend on how you spend. Right? You can make 120 work. You certainly make 120 work. You just can't be, juiced to the gills. Right? Yeah. Once you make it, it's no longer much, but prior it was the biggest inspiration. So let me give you a little bit of lore. Growing up, my mom was making $50,000. Right? I think she was a dental assistant, and later on she became an RN. And I thought, I just need to if I can make 50,000, I'll make it, right? And I'll make it. And now I used to do overtime with TSA all the time, and I made 50,000, 19, 20, 21 years old, but I paid my way through college. And I thought, since my responsibilities were only my tuition, I was going to buy a bunch of candy, video games, food, whatever. But very quickly, I started eating into that income, into that budget. What I was doing, I was sitting there. Oh, I need a car. Right? I'm living at home, but I saw the landscape. People either had an apartment on their own, they lived on their own, and they took public transportation, or they had a car and they lived at home. I wanted a car because I thought the girls would like it, so that's what I did. But back then, apartments were going for about $800 a month. Right? In places in Brooklyn, you get a place at $800,000 a month. Now you couldn't think about that. Now you couldn't survive on that salary. So when I started making more money, there were times when I quickly increased my expenses to meet that. And I was sitting there feeling, why do I not feel, I hit the 6-figure mark. Why do I feel poor? Well, look at how much money is going out the door. How much money is going out the door every single month. Every time you get paid, someone else get paid. Especially when living in New York. I need money. Hey, you got paid. Great. Congratulations. Federal's like, I need a little bit of that. State's like, I need a little bit of that. City's like, I also need a little bit of that. And then you pay the taxes and everything else. So when you start on your way to make that, this is the time for you to get judicious. This is time for you to start making sense. This is time for you to start saying, okay, I got this money. This is the plan. One of the simplest things that you first started doing is you get a little bit of raise. I increase my contribution to my 401k. That way, even if I felt like everything was the same and on paper I was making more money, I was putting more aside for the retirement. So if I'm balancing, and I always kind of look at budgets, I'm very close with what goes in and what goes out. I have alerts set up on my phone just so I know, hey, you're getting a little wild here. Right? You're getting a little wild here. Yeah. We go. Dowry should do this. Yeah, this is exactly what you gotta do. Yeah. This is just the name of the game. Working like that's normal. Yeah. 100% paid off by the time. That's incredible. That's incredible. Oh, to you. Right? Are you in a place where they're considering getting rid of property tax once you're already paid off? That would be just absolute love. Yeah, but like I said, again, if you're new here, subscribe to the channel. Wait, let me hit that animation because I actually do really enjoy that. Okay, so why were black women, why were they exposed? We talked a little bit about this, right? You went for the government work, which was historically offered stable salaries. Women like stability, right? I like to know this is a bedrock. This is a rock of Gibraltar. It's going to be here, right? You got pensions, you got health insurance. You had, especially in the federal government, you had structured promotions. Every 2 or 3 years, you get a little bump. You knew the process for you getting a new job. You knew how to apply for these things. A lot of mystery was gone. You had transparency in your pay. Whenever people talked about the inequality with pay, the federal workers not. Oh, he's being paid more than no. Here's where you fall on the general schedule. This is what you're supposed to be making. This is the band that you're in. This is what you're supposed to be making. That's it. Right? By whatever happens and promotions and little awards you may get here, that may be subject to discussion, but that's your pay was there. In the private sector, it may be something different. So this was a good reason for people to come in there, right? This was an easy choice, right? Pun intended. It's an easy choice for you to be here. So you saw this high, there were, in terms of just your occupation, Black women are highly represented in public administration, education, healthcare, right? You dominate healthcare, human resources, social services, compliance, and civil rights work. These were areas that that's where you were, right? If you had tenure, you had seniority, or you were new there, you knew all about, again, government work was so secure, it had all these protections already in place. So why wouldn't you already think this was going to do? A lot of people got into the federal government because their parents were in the federal government. Your mom had this stable job that allowed her to put food on the table for you. So naturally, you went and you followed that footsteps. You had an idea this is going to work. If you're a single mom and you've got kids, you want stability. You absolutely want stability. You don't want to turn around and hear, oh, there's a fork in the road. Where's your job? You got to fight for your job. You got to justify your existence now. So, when you have this household responsibility, you have children, you have housing, you may have elderly parents, health insurance, and then you have retirement contributions going on at the same time. So when this actually occurs, when now the job is gone, what happens? When they go and start saying, we don't need a lot of these things. And a lot of these positions that we are getting rid of are exactly the ones that Black women specialize in. Now, could you look at this and say, this was by design? They were trying to get rid of Black women, or are they trying to look and say, we're trimming the fat from these governments because we've always wanted to run lean? Maybe, right? We don't have enough the data in front of us to make that case, and we're not trying to blame one party, blame the other. But when they're trying to trim the fat, they're going to look and say, hey, compliance, we can get rid of that. Social services, can we automate that? Do we need as much redundancy in it? Because we often don't care about the speed, the efficiency of it, just as long as that it exists. You go look at how the VA was run for such a long time, and it was a nightmare. Oh, it's available. You have healthcare. True. It's just so poorly run, you might never get seen. Right? You could see the same thing when we say you look at Canada. We got universal healthcare. It's going to take you 6 months to get seen. Okay, but it's there. It exists. What are you complaining about? Public administration. We know this the state of our education system right now. So when they start cutting these positions, who's going to be first affected? It's going to be Black women, right? That's not even a question. Federally, right? Federally, what's going to happen? So once you lose your job, what now? Remember, that job is not the financial plan, but we pretend like it is. We think it is. We move like it is, and we move with this sort of pride and saying that, yeah, no, this is what it is. You got it. So let's say you made, $85,000 annually, right? You had $15,000 in savings. You had $38,000 in essential monthly expenses, right? We're being generous here with monthly expenses, right? Depending what city you live in, your rent could already be that $3,800 if you're in New York or you're in a heavy metropolitan city, right? Now you got $8,000 in credit card debt because most of us got credit card debt. We could do a whole show just about that. So now that income is gone. That income is gone. That $15,000 that's supposed to that you had in your savings. How many months do you get with that just to pay your rent? About 4, right? About 4. Then you look, hopefully you're waiting for, depending how you lost the job, maybe waiting for employment benefits, right? To extend, to give you a little leg up, a little breathing room to get you maybe another month, maybe another 2 months. But now you still have health insurance, right? Now you still need, now when you go looking for jobs, that has an expense too. Because if you're the type that said, I'm just going to be like another one person on TikTok creating a thing saying, I applied for 150 jobs on Indeed. No one got back to you. Sometimes you got to get in the streets. You got to go run and shake and find these people. You have to be in person. Or you have to hire people out to fix up your resume. You have to hire people out that have connections and hearing. You've got to lean on other people to make this thing happen. Let's not forget about your credit card debt. Right? Oh God! Now you can't pay it in full. You haven't been paying in full. That's why you're probably carrying 8,000. I believe the average number is like 7,500, but let's call it 8. Now you start getting interest on that, heavy interest on that, because those are 20 to 28%. That eats up. That adds up. Now you got, hey, you can't really stay here, or you find a job somewhere else, or there's jobs elsewhere. You got to relocate. Moving's not cheap. You're not a nomad. You can't just pick up the sticks and say, all right, we're out. We're just going to travel somewhere else. You have to go there, look for housing. You got to do your security deposit, your first, maybe your last. Moving gets expensive. Let's even say if you had a house, same rent, it's $3,800. You had a house. How can now, and there's no jobs where you are. You're in Texas. You're in Salina. You're one of these small little towns. You've got to travel. You've got to always travel to get to work, to get to your job, or your job was remote. Now you lost that. You lost that by them saying, hey, you need to come in. A lot of people that were working remote were whooping because it provided the flexibility that they needed to be home for childcare. It eliminated the cost of childcare. It eliminated the cost, the wear and tear on your car, gas. It eliminated the spending you also did when you're outside the house. So a lot of this goes quick. And then the bills have always been disrespectful. They've never stopped. Since the minute you got your first job, your bills have never stopped. Funny, you lose a job, the bills still don't stop. They're disrespectful like that. They stay right there. So the true cost starts including you lost the wages, right? You lost the benefits. You lost the retirement contributions. Now your debt, even if you're not spending, somehow you're not spending money, interest is accruing. Get those that you also may have student loans, interest is accruing, right? Now you have that pressure. Now you need a job. You were making 85, but now the only thing available to you is a $55,000 job. Can you take it? Should you take it? Now this is the part where sometimes we get a little confused, where pride starts stepping in and saying, well, I can't work for that little. One of my good friends, he was eyeing retirement, right? He was getting ready to go. And we had this conversation where they were kind of forcing him out, like a medical thing. He was making good, maybe 200, right? But they offered him position, right? Because they weren't complete assholes about it. Offered him position, he'd be making 120. He said it's too much of a drop. I said, isn't some money better than no money? You'd rather just retire and go and then just say, I'm done. I don't know if there was a bit of spite in there, but to me, it sounds like I'd rather have money coming in so I can breathe a little and figure some of this stuff out, right? That's it. That's where I'm looking at it. Women don't need men. Just pay your goddamn child. Listen, you got a kid, pay child support. I have no issue with that, right? How you want to raise your daughters, how you want to raise it, right? We're cool. But listen, what we're saying is, here, the effects of you losing your job is multifaceted. It's not the world pauses and understands, gives you time to get your bearing. Now it's a race against the clock because, again, the job, the income was never the financial plan. Unfortunately, and we're hyper aware of this, how we do things in our own community, how bad we are when it comes down to money. So, So where we end up missing some of this understanding, right? Because they told us get the get the degree, get the career, and then everything else is supposed to be fine by that. We just told you, if you have the degree, you have the education, you're supposed to make more money. This is going to give you the independence. Man or woman, it's supposed to give you the independence. You select the correct field. Now you got a little bit of mobility. You can go here, or over there. You get the benefits, you get the retirement growth. But there's stuff that we don't talk about, even when you're, when you're in high school and you talk to career planning, career development, they leave out a lot of stuff, important stuff outside of just taxes, right? But they don't really teach you or prepare you, even as you're a worker on your first day of the job. You do orientation. I remember my orientation, they were telling me, yeah, put your money, you have to invest your money for your retirement. Set this up so you can get this, so you get matching, so you can do this. Great. But they don't really prepare you. They don't talk about layoffs. They don't talk about automation. They don't talk about disability. They don't talk about how your industry could be disrupted by new tech. Think taxis and Ubers coming along. Now that's all gone. That's out the window. You see a taxi, it's a throwback. It just doesn't seem as efficient, right? Caregiving. And then of course the long-term like job searches. We don't really tell you enough about emergency funds, about controlling and controlled expenses. We don't tell you about insurance. We're talking about investments. We don't talk about you having marketable skills. And why would we? Think about it in that sense. Why would we tell you any of this when what we want you to do is be a replaceable cog in the machine? Anyone here, at work ever experienced one of their coworkers died? Right? I have a couple times. And so quickly, that coworker is just honored in an email, and then we keep it moving. Your serial number. We're just like, man, that's terrible what happened to him. But we're going to continue on. We're going to keep pushing because the job doesn't stop. So when you sit there and you put so much effort into your actual job, when you take away, you sacrifice time from your job, time with your loved ones, your family, thinking that this is somehow going to be rewarded. This is part of the conversation that we end up not telling you about, because we don't want you to realize that your priority should be elsewhere. Your priority should be using this job, the payments, whatever it is, to help you slide off somewhere else. Use a job to build you enough security so you don't need the job anymore. That's how I like to look at it, right? This is one of the things that men, we should understand. This is what's happening. This is your advance warning. This is just the difference. The thing that saved you, this thing that saved us, is that we tend to specialize in different areas. We went to school for different degrees that got us different positions. Some of the positions that we occupy in mass really are AI proof for now, until AI becomes giant, fighting robots, running around like Power Rangers. Then you won't really need a lot of us. But for now, those positions that have historically been more male dominated, 90+%, are labor intensive, right? Or some of these until AI becomes actually AI, like cognizant, not an aggregate. Now, in those STEM fields that are still male dominated, construction and hard labor and policing, these things are sort of proof. But when we used to look at tech, and a lot of us already in our fields, we looked at how many people were coming out of college, computer science degrees, and already in tech, making $250,000 a year. And we thought, damn, that's the wave. If only I could code. If only I could do this. You had men and women in there. And then what happens? Industry gets disrupted. Jobs are gone. So now you see a large part of that sector just gone out of the blue. I was reading an article about a woman says at her height, she was making $500,000 a year. Then she got downsized. She was one of those people that were training her AI model to do her job. She trained it well, and she got cut. She said she looked at her finances and said, how long at $500,000 a year, how long can her and her husband last with just what they had saved? She said a month. She said an actual month. That's all she could do. Yeah, I got a degree in accounting. I love a corporate job to start a basket weaving company. Yeah, right. A basket weaving. You like, and then you turn around, and some of these characters turn around and say, "What the hell? I should I should be making this money, right? Why can't I find a job that allows me to live safely, calmly, right? Where I want a place where I can actually afford to live. What you can get, retail jobs, entry level jobs, but none of this thing is going to turn around and actually help you, help the economy. It's not what we're looking for. Basket weaving is cool, kinda, right? You had to be maybe a temple priestess back in the day. It's like, you already got a job, right? You already got a job. You just make baskets and fronds and stuff you can put in people's hair. That's cool. We appreciate that, right? But the rest of us, no, you need to have a marketable skill. You need to be aware of how the economy is moving, how they're shrinking, how it's more and more about shareholder value, and how a lot of these positions are redundant. We're getting rid of them because, one, I don't have to pay you, right? I've got to pay you $120,000. You got some tenure on. I could hire 2 new people for 60. And that has nothing to do with you being black or woman. That's just get math, right? That's math. I got to pay you this exorbitant amount, but I can pay these 2 young people, and I'll have them potentially, I'll have them for longer than I'll have you. You've got 10 years left, and you're at the top of the pay. I can use them, but we know the younger generations, they're more prone to hop and switch and jump jobs often. So yeah, I'm gonna pay them 60 and they're gonna hop somewhere else and go for 70, but I'm always having an influx of new people. I can save money. I can save money, especially if I just hire someone younger for that 60 and only hire one of them. I've saved the company $60,000 getting rid of you. Forget any promotions, anything. I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to worry about having a conversation with you why I failed to promote you again. Let's get rid of you. Also, you're very well versed on labor laws and how things work. When I try to cheat you out of time, you're very aware of it. I don't need that. You can go. These are things that are going to be on the horizon for a lot of us, regardless of whether or not we actually are black women. We should be able to look at the economy, and we should be able to look and say, this is how we end up preventing a lot of this. My solution has always been the same. We understand now that your income is not going to be your financial plan. You need a financial plan. You need an understanding of what the game is, of how it's supposed to look. You need to understand, okay, I need that emergency fund. I need to work on eliminating my debt, because your debt keeps you shackled to a job that's looking at you and saying, you only got about 6 more months. You only got about 6 more months before I'm getting rid of you. You making a high salary, you making anything from 120, making 240. But now the rest of your life reflects that. You got a Porsche 911, DT3, 2024, right? You bought a $250,000 car because you make that much money. You're the man or woman. So now you're paying $4,000 a month for your car, not insurance, not gas, not maintenance. But it looks cool, right?
It sounds good.
It looks cool. And we're always fans of that. We're always absolutely fans of that. So now your expenses are through the roof. The rest of your life looks through the roof. You got to be in a high rise. You have to be in a McMansion. Make the money I'm supposed to enjoy it. So now you're living paycheck to paycheck, essentially. Maybe not paycheck to paycheck, but certainly every 17 days. You got a little bit of layover. You got a little bit of cushion in there. But you lose your job and you're no better off than someone who was making 50 that just got laid off the same way. No emergency funds, no emergency savings, high debt, high expenses. It takes you way too long to cut your expenses when you get the news that you just lost your job. It's not something that you can just ramp up immediately and say, boom, this is what we're going to do. We get rid of that, get rid of that. Austerity measures in place. You don't have the ability to do it. So you should already be living lean. And not saying that you live lean to be a pauper, not saying you live lean to be like Dan Ramsay, beans and rice. But You have to budget for these things, for fun. Hey, I want to do this. I want to enjoy myself. It's going to cost, I want to take this trip, blah, blah, blah. It's going to be about $3,000, round trip, do all that stuff. Okay, let me start budgeting that now. Let me start putting away a little bit of money. So when it comes time to do that, I'm not now worrying about how I'm going to pay for this. I'm there and I can actually enjoy myself rather than I'm sitting down there and every swipe of that Visa, I'm sitting there and grimacing because I haven't paid down my debt. I'm now just adding to that thing. I have no extra money to pay that. So now my $8,000 now is transformed to $11,000. And the interest is still accruing. The interest is still accruing. Interest is still accruing. How am I supposed to solve this? We solve plenty of this by just looking ahead and saying, what changes do I need to make today? Again, you're at the top of the hill. You get to look down and say, this is about where I want to land. You get to look at your expenses and say, how much am I going to need every month when it comes down to retire? That should start telling me how I'm supposed to get there. You may need to tighten the belt here right now and just say, I need the budget. I need to understand this is what's important. This is what's important. You may have your debt. You may have been working, paying off your debt, and now you're in a place where you can start actually investing. Because it doesn't make sense when you have an interest rate of 20%, 28%, and the market's only going to probably give you 10, 12. You're losing money. You got to get rid of that high interest debt first and foremost. People look and say, hey, I want to pay off. You want to pay off your car. Your car is at 3%. Your credit card is at 20. Which one do you think you pay off first? It's having these thoughts and these conversations, these ideas right up on our face first, here and now, so we can make those decisions. Or at the very least, it looks like we're coasting. When the outside is looking in, when you're in Tuscany, right? When you're in Monaco, but you planned this out, you saved it out. People look and say, damn, I wish I could do that. And they pull out that Amex and said, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna add to my debt. I'm gonna add to my trials and tribulations. I'm gonna add to the change around me that keeps me locked in with this job. That job that's looking at you and saying, I'm about to save 60,000 by getting rid of you. You don't do much anyway. You just come in here, you send reels to your people, right? You laugh, you scroll TikTok, and you look at pictures of Monaco. I get rid of you. These jobs, they're ruthless. They're just looking at the bottom line. That's what they have to do. So in understanding that, we have to know, okay, this has happened in Black women first, canaries. Canaries in a coal mine. If you don't have a plan, and maybe it can't be a job, maybe you don't have the appreciable skills, now's the time to start looking and saying, what new skills do I need? Right? What new certs do I need? Where can I apply for basket weaving? Right? What can I do to gain a skill that's going to be marketable in demand, that I can pivot to, that's going to save me, that's going to give me a little bit of breathing room? Now is the time, not when the company starts going around and saying, can you train this AI model for me? No, we're not going to pay you any extra, but we just want to, we're doing what no. It's not the time when the data center just, right? When the data centers have been built and they're online now and you think your job is secure. No, it's today. You're looking ahead, looking at the news, you're seeing what's happening in the economy, you're seeing people in your very field shrink. This is the time for you to say, all right, I got to make some moves, right? Yeah. Oh yeah, you can always learn to do hair. Always learn to do hair. Hair, makeup, right? Always. If you find OnlyFans, right? If you find you got some pretty feet, sell those. Right? But you might have to start thinking outside the box in order to make some of this happen. But for those of you that are parents, it's doubly, impressed upon you to make sure that they're going to be good, because your kid, may not understand anything about taxes, dividends, stocks, may not understand anything about unemployment. They shouldn't, right? They really shouldn't. They should have time to really just be who they need to be, enjoy their life, and wake up one day and realize, damn, my mom, my dad did a lot for me. They held it down. And then I never knew struggle, but I saw the work ethic. That should be the case. Your kid shouldn't know about, at 4 or 5 years old, know about APR. He shouldn't know about interest rate. He shouldn't be hearing talks about how can we consolidate this. No, right? He should live in a place, he or she should live in a place where the lights never go off. Outside of, emergencies and stuff. But yeah, don't have to watch them decide, what are we going to pay? We're going to rob Peter to pay Paul, Nat Grid to pay Con Ed. How do we make that happen? What decisions have to be made? If you have the plan, your financial plan, this is when it starts working. This is when it gets in there. I was giving a Vietnamese cousin about doing nails as a career. Yeah. No, they listen. It's one of those things that consistently people are going to always pay for. People pay for convenience, people pay for health, people pay for shelter. Right? People are always going to get sick. And so hospitals, you being in that care field is always going to be good. People want convenience. They don't want to do shit for themselves. I don't want to cook for myself. I don't do my own nails. I don't want to give myself any type of self-care. I'm going to pay for that. I'm going to get out there and pay for that. Even during recessions, my nails got to look good. Even when you look at how this economy is going, when you look at how socially we're going, I got to get my nails done. He got to pay my maintenance, right? Your cousin don't really care. I don't care who's paying it. The man's paying it. That other man do it. The other man in your roster. I don't really care. I'm getting paid. That's all that matters. Shout out to them. Yeah. Hair, nails, right? Make money. We like to look down on them and say, oh, no, it's not. No, they make money. Absolutely. Is it labor intensive? Yeah. But if you actually the owner of the business, it's even better. Right? So it's something to think about. It's these people also, when you look good, you feel good, right? As long as you can, what does Young Miami say? Spend that? I don't care. Same thing with laundromats. Even though you have more and more places, more and more apartments where you live in metropolitan cities, where you live in the nice areas, they come with washer and dryers. That's not the case for everyone else. Some people that can't afford to do their nails are still going to get their nails done, but everyone needs clean clothes. And you don't have a washer dryer hookup in your place? Yeah, you're going to have to find a place to get it done. Now we transform that, right? You went from, hey, come in, wash your clothes. Here's a washer, here's a dryer, right? Go pay for the detergent right there. Maybe you want some sheets because you're not a savage. To now we're saying, just drop it off. Drop it off. I'll rut through your unmentionables and see how you don't actually wash up as long as you pay me for it. Cool. Convenience. As long as we slide into that era, you're always going to find a way to make money. Especially in America, people are lazy, right? They love convenience. They love ways where you can make their life slightly easier. They're going to pay you. They'll pay you and they'll pay through the nose every damn time. It's what matters to us. It's what's the point of me being the greatest country on the planet? I can't be convenience. I can't order something on Amazon and have it right there. Same thing. Uber, DoorDash. Not that these models are great for you to make money, but in the interim, if you lost your job and you had to make money, day one, right? Day one, I'm trying to do something like that. Yeah. Savage. You ran out of dry sheet? Savage. How you living? What are you doing? Right? Listen, Jasmine, I just think highly of you. I think better of you. How you living like that? Not with all the convenience. You could have DoorDashed yourself some dryer sheets. DoorDashed it. I mean, you would have paid through the nose, but you'd be a refined citizen once again. People get mad at the community because we make money. They don't realize. Yeah. Listen. Now. Yep. Listen. Every community has a chance to work, and I'm always been a proponent of you take what works for these. The convenience. Yeah, convenience is expensive. It's hella expensive, but so is being a savage, right? So is being a savage. We need to take what works from so many different communities. We need to take that, adopt it, and say, great, that's a phenomenal idea. That's a phenomenal strategy. So, if you guys couldn't tell by now, if you are new here, I'm Nigerian. So growing up, we would have times where we have aunts or uncles that will come stay with us for like an extended period of time. We were kids, we didn't know what was going on. And then all of a sudden they fly out somewhere else, and then we wouldn't see them for years. Then later on, the whole established over there. We didn't know that the way was being prepared for them. They're here working, saving their money. And now it's a collaborative effort. If you were to start a life in another country, the big leg up would just be staying with someone first. Get your bearings, lack of pressure. You have some place to stay. It's family. Now, family's now assisting you. It's not just that immediate family. It's all a collaborative effort. Then you leave there, you go somewhere else, and then boom. See you later. Now you have 6 kids. Right? You married a doctor. They set that up. Right? This is what I grew up seeing. I was annoyed by it because sometimes we'd have to vacate like parts of our room so they could sleep there. But it's annoying as hell. I promise I'll never do that again. But you get to see how this actually works. You see examples from community to community. I had a very close Chinese friend back in the day, and he was talking about he was proposed to his fiance, and we're talking about the wedding. I was in the wedding and all that. But you would see how much help was done to secure like the house. And the house was right next to his parents. This was in Queens, where houses are not cheap. I think they got something like $250,000 to $300,000 to help us down payment to get the house. Blew me away. Instant. I wasn't even jealous. I was just more amazed. Like, yeah, when you're collaborative, that makes sense. Right? When the most important thing for you to do as a grandparent, potential grandparent, you want your kid close. You want your kid and the potential next kid close. I can walk right across the street. I could leave the house, walk, and I'm right there. I'm there to assist. With you both out there working. Bring the kid right over. Hell, you don't have to. I'll just be over. Hell, I probably have a space in your own house. It's collaborative effort, and it's not antagonistic when you see us, up under each other. How many times growing up I heard people were amazed. I didn't leave my father's house, my parents' house, until I was, I want to say, when did I leave? Yeah. Until 2012, when I bought a place. I bought a place, and even then it wasn't like I left. I left everything down there. Like I had a little basement apartment. I just left everything down there. I said, I'll buy new stuff over here. But I was able to save, tremendously while I was living at home, because there was no rush to say you got to get out of here. Very much in American culture, we say as soon as you're 18, you got to leave, or I got to charge you rent, or somehow you got to kick up, you got to kick in. There's both fields of study on that, but one of those is saying that I want to teach my kids some responsibility when they're young. If you need to teach your kid responsibility by 18, you failed. They should have known it already. They should have understood that already. Early on, you don't have to wait for them to have this fiscal sort of conversation, because by then, all you're going to be met with is some sort of pushback, rebellion. What are you talking about? Why are you going to charge me? This is my room. You don't understand that this has been my house this entire time. You're supposed to show this supposed respect here, but it helps you being here. You just have to respect these rules in here. That's it. I'm not trying to charge you. I'm not trying to bankrupt you. I'm not even trying to do the clever thing where I charge you rent, hold it aside, and when you're ready to move out, I present you the money. I'm not doing that. By now, you should have understood exactly how this thing is supposed to work. You understand that we're always going to be better together. That includes your family. That includes whoever you choose as a partner. So when you hear this talk about 50-50, you watch all these other races, these other groups, how they get ahead, because they understand just like Toretto, right? Just like Dom, it's family. That's how we win this thing, right? that's how we do it. That's it. It's not complicated. If you want to talk about we're going to be drag racing quarter miles and now all of a sudden we're in space, how do we do that? We do it by family. That's it, right? Toretto had it right. I know what's up with the rest of you guys. Yeah, my mom used to always make it up. She was going to make it, high school graduation because she'd be packing my things. Right. And then we have this weird conversation when they're older and you're like, yo, kick rocks. Respectfully, I love you, all that, but why do you think there's this barrier between us? I don't think sometimes because something was done one way, a lot of us think that's just the way it's supposed to be done all the time. You see the same thing when people, they get an apartment and it's time to furnish it. They go to Rent-A-Center. You did that because your grandmother did it. You did that because you thought this is the way it was supposed to be done. No, it's foolish. It's stupid. Putting this, now you're using Klarna, Afterpay. You're putting your furniture on layaway. You're in the house. You don't own the couch that you're sitting on. This is what we do because it was always done this way. And then we don't realize that we should be having way better outcomes. When we look at keeping with the Black community, when we look at how much money actually we earn, how much money we end up spending, we just look and say, well, we can do better. But a lot of that change has to change with the mindset, because we end up saying, okay, now it's a Black business. You have to support. Now you come there, I'm going to give you mediocre oxtails and gravy, and it's going to be $74, but I'm a Black business. You're supposed to support. A lot of this stuff we need to say, we need to be collaborative, but we also still need to be competitive. As business entrepreneurs, we still have to be competitive. This is that. This is this price. This competes with the market. I'm a Black landlord. Do I overcharge people? No, because I got to compete with what the market says. I'd rather have fresh money every single month than you make 2 payments and you say, I can't do this shit. I can't do this shit. It's just too much money. It's too expensive. I'd rather you come there and say, you're looking out for me, and I appreciate that. Therefore, you get your money on time. No questions, no issues whatsoever. Once that dynamic's established, we're cool. Could I be charging you an arm and a leg more? Yeah. But now every 3 months, you got a whole problem. You got a whole problem with me. How much money am I need to make off of you to make this thing happen? Already at the rate I'm charging you, I'm making a profit. So $3-4 extra $100, is that going to be the make or break thing? Could that make or break you? Yes. Now you have to think about, I'm gonna rob Peter to pay Paul. Oh. Congratulations. I'm Peter now. I'm being robbed so you can pay something else. I don't want that. I want to make sure, like, oh no, I can do this. Stuff's a little tight right now. We had a slow month. I can still make these payments. I can still make these things happen. Yeah. Oh, great to see you guys. If you guys are new here, again, subscribe. Let me cheese with that animation. Double tap the screen. Like, we're talking money, right? We're talking, especially, we got into talking about, we're off topic now, but we're talking about that generational wealth. This is a great jumping off point right here. When we talk about generational wealth, part of the issue is what we stop understanding. We just look at a dollar amount. Maybe we look at a deed. Generational wealth is going to start with a mindset and attitude. How many people are beyond rich, pass it on to their kids, and they lose their fortune? Well, because those kids never knew anything about the struggle. They never knew the value of the dollar. They never worked. They simply lived off the hard work that their father did. Now you sort of left here. Now we look at our community, how we're kind of behind the 8 ball. And we're trying to look and say, well, how do we fix these things? What do we have to do to get ourselves out ahead? Well, we have to fix a lot of our mindsets. A lot of this is more so we don't look at delayed gratification. One of the easy examples I have is this, right? Easy example. I want a private jet. I want one, right? Want one. And I'll do a prop plane, right? That's cool. But I want one of those that you guys get in. You're like, damn, he's made better decisions than I have. Damn, do you know the cost of Jet A? Damn. But I know that's probably not going to happen in my lifetime. Despite the things that I've done, despite the accomplishments I've had, despite me potentially leaving the next part of the generation, right now it's my niece, I could leave her with such a leg up. But in terms of generational wealth, what it actually ends up being is you start making decisions for people you may never, ever meet. We think just my kids. You got to start thinking your great grandkids. You got to start thinking, how can I make decisions here? Because we're not starting our equal footing. We're in the Olympics. We're running the 400, but they're starting at the blocks. I'm starting in the locker rooms. So how do I start thinking, no, I'm going to win this race in my generation? You're not. If the comparison is, I want to be just as well off as these kids that have a shoe in already legacies or Harvard, that's not going to happen in my generation. That's going to take time. That's going to take effort. And sometimes you're the setup man. We're running a relay. Everyone wants to be the anchor. Everyone wants to be the one crossing the finish line that everyone is cheering for. You want to be the one that you call out stick and they hand it to you and you run. You as fast as you can with, you don't care about anything else. You don't have to time and aim and make sure that stick hits that the next person. You don't have to do any of that. You just have to, fast as you can, pull out. That's beautiful. It's simple. A lot of us are the first leg. A lot of us are the first leg, right? We're seeing it, and we still got to give you a good lead. I want to hand it off. There's the next man, the second, then the third, then the anchor. No one cares about how well I handed it off to you. We're celebrating in the PJ. We're not celebrating the fact that someone that they've never known, that maybe they still share a last name with, set some of this stuff in motion. No one gets to remember that guy. We're not, Eastern European vampires obsessed with legacy. You don't know the counts. You don't know him. You don't see him. Maybe someone has pictures of you somewhere. That's setting up generational wealth. I would probably never see my kids, my generation, my lineage doing it big, doing it the right way. But it's because of me that I set these things in motion, that they have a shot at that, right? I've got a shot at that. Yeah, got to be me. Yeah, what else can it be? Yeah, this is it's sort of wild. It's sort of just the way the world is. When we end up thinking about generational wealth, we don't think about the sacrificial part of it. You want to pass on, you need to pass on a mindset. You need to pass on a set of ideals, set of principles that everyone gets to live by. And this is what makes us, our family, unique. This is the way we operate. We're collaborative. With my siblings and I, we're exactly that. We joke around. It just ends up sometimes like we're passing money back and forth to each other. The other time, my brother, had a power went out, and he took him and his family to a hotel. Okay, right. The day before, I sent my sister $300 for cologne. She sent my brother next day $200 for just to stay for a hotel stay. Then I turn around and send my brother $220 because I cannot. Right, no one's gonna up me in the family. So you send 200, I send 202. It's me. That's my thing. We're just shuffling money now. Does anyone need that handout? No, they don't. But it's more like, hey, you're not doing this by yourself. Here you go. Hey, it was your birthday. You like that cologne? Here you go. I help my mom with groceries every time she goes. It's expensive. Can she do it herself? Yeah, absolutely. But it's just, this is how the rules of the family, that's how they operate. They all look out for each other. Collaborative. What point is it for one of you to get rich and everyone else is just looking and saying, I can't really buy eggs right now. I have to make a decision. What's the point of that? America teaches you very much that, hey, yes, do it big. You can make it on your own. Doesn't say that it's lonely. Doesn't say that you should do it this way. But you end up perpetuating the same curses that you have generation to generation. All man for themselves. You do well by yourself, congratulations. Go buy the Lambo. Go move to Miami. Go get the high rise. Go sell your ebook, right? Go sell a course. Your family's still in Wisconsin though. Leave them there. That's what we say to do. A lot of times you see some of this attitude, the different types of attitude with different immigrants. They come in and say, well, no, we have this mindset. Or we don't have some of the issues that plague you just being here in America. This is one of those opportunities. Again, even though they look like you, this is time to say, that makes sense. Let me take that. Hey, this is what the Chinese do. Let me take that. Hey, I see what let me take that. That's a great idea. Not everything has to be original. Not everything. If it's working, who cares? In a couple of generations, they're going to think you came up with it anyway. I'd rather that, right? I'd rather just do that. You have to get further together. Again, what is the point? I'll leave you guys with this, right? Because I don't want you to keep you up too late on your Monday. Whenever, we have those thoughts about if you won the lottery, what would you do? What would you buy? And I always say, the first thing I do is I got to take 10 friends and I got to make them rich. Because I need their problems to be my problems to be their problems. When I'm complaining about, the captain on the private jet was late, he was late bringing it in, he was late coming in, and now it's sitting in a hangar, crew's there, captain's not there. I need you to say, don't you hate when that happens? Don't you absolutely hate when that actually happens? Otherwise, you start losing your sense of self, because it's your friends, it's your family around you that keeps you rooted. It keeps reminding you the why you're doing some of these things. That's why I'm always so keen to help and go to my bottom dollar, help my family, help my friends, because they're the ones that end up pushing me to go further and further and further. Think about it, right? Think about it. Those Jews grandpas will sacrifice entire life to put the grandkids to college. Yeah. And we'll just be like, college? What that mean? Right? What that mean? But in the same vein, when you come here, Nigerians, we come here, we collect degrees. Right? We collect degrees like like Infinity Stones. Collect degrees. I remember I was talking with my father, and we asked him where's your degree, because he got a full scholarship to study computer science to MIT from Nigeria without a computer. And then he also got a master's. He got a master's in physics, and then from MIT, and then another master's from NYU. So we're having this conversation in the living room. I'm saying, your pops. Yeah, I said, pops, where's your degrees? None of it displayed. None of it up on the wall. He goes a little section, the computer area, opens up a couple boxes. Boom, here's the degrees. So when and I'm just looking at this, MIT. God damn, right? Just like, yeah, it's whatever. The expectation fell upon us to do the same thing. Yeah, whatever. I never went to any of my college graduations because it was just like, ooh, you were supposed to do that. I wasn't the celebratory kid. Like, okay, if one of my siblings, hey, yeah, you got this. Yeah, we went to see my brother when he got his degree. My brother has the most degrees. He easily has the most degrees. But this is just now, yeah, the family does that. Mom has a master's. Right? Hey, this is what's being done. Right? Extremely hardworking people. Yeah. And we're especially Nigerians, we're competitive, right? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you're supposed to. There's this from jump, from day one. You're looked at and you're supposed to do these things. Growing up, if I got, say, if we got a 90 or better on a test in elementary school, we get $1, right? We get $1. So this is how I finance, it's how I bought GoldenEye. Right? Nintendo 64. I bought it off tests. And every aunt or uncle would honor that system when they came to the house just to talk to my parents. Boom, I spring a bunch of tests on you. Quizzes, tests, everything. Reports. Boom. Get my dollars up. Right? Get my dollars up. And then I go, hey, I wanna buy GoldenEye. Boom. Right? That's how we did it back in the day. So growing up, there's always this pressure. You have to do this. So it makes or breaks you. Right? It could break you. It could break you. So later on, I'm working on my master's, and I go to my father and I say, because now I'm working full time and my schedule is crazy, and I keep complaining. I'm taking a full load, taking about four courses, graduate level courses, and I'm complaining to him like, yeah, man, I keep getting like, it's all straight A's, but one of them would be like A-. The A- would sneak in there. And I'm complaining to him, and he's looking at me like, what the hell's the problem with A-? My eyes light up. I say, you've been the problem. He just looks at me, he laughs, and I did my job. I said, oh my God. Oh my God. So yeah, it comes down to it. There's so many different traits and ideals that you can take from people around you. That's why you want to have diversity around you, but you look and you learn and you say, cool, you guys do this really well. I'm shamelessly going to steal it. Again, that's kind of what America does anyway, right? I'm shamelessly going to steal this thing. The way you move within the family, this is beautiful. So now anyone, right? It's meet the Fockers. Anyone coming into the family has to go through this, has to be part of this. You don't move like this, you're kind of going to always feel a little bit apart. The conversations that, my brother and my sister and I will have, my sister-in-law was just like, I've never been exposed to this. She's like, I feel so fortunate that I'm married into this, that some of the discussions that we're talking about is free, just back and forth. Yeah, this is a plan. This we should be doing. Okay. I don't want you to be a carbon copy of me, is what I'm telling my brother. So here's the lessons I know. You take that, you run with it. And he's running with it. But we're going to be such a better as a team, as a unit. Are there other things that we can adopt? Absolutely. Should we have a little bank fund for each other? Yes. That way, when it's time for you to buy something that requires high interest, you can pull from the fund and pay back the fund. Even if you're paying interest to the fund, pay interest to us. When I gave my brother a car when I was younger, and even my uncles were like, "Wait, you didn't sell it to him?" I said, "No, I gave it to him. Why would I not? I bought the house that we grew up in. My brother stays there for free. How could I charge him? What would I gain by taking his money, adding it to my bank account?" Father would turn over in the grave and say, I taught you better than that. Is it detrimental? Do I have to carry this? Yes, but look at what it allows him to do. Look at how it allows him to grow. We're in the same generation, but look how I gave him a chance to flourish, and he's not disappointing. This is how we have to start thinking about if we want to do better. Sometimes it's not going to be you. You're going to be the fulcrum, or at least the catalyst that helps propel people forward. They'll be standing on your shoulders. You're not a giant yet. But otherwise, I don't see if people know a better way to make that happen. Let me know. And I'm down to try it. I'm down to adopt that and implement that into our community, into our family. If there's a quicker, easier way, please, please let me know. And on that note, also, please subscribe, right? Double tap the screen. Just like the stream. This is Money Mondays. We like to change the mindset, and this has been a good one. Just getting into what actually makes sense from my point of view. Eventually we'll have call-in shows where people can talk about what actually has worked for their families, so we can shamelessly steal from one another. Till then, I'll catch you guys in the next one.